Hi everybody, thank you for joining me today. Today I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about stamping. Now the stamping I'm referring to is related mostly to journaling and planning and putting stamps in your journals, your bullet journals, or in your planners. But a lot of these techniques are transferable into making cards or art journaling. Right now, most of my stamping is mostly art journaling and bullet journaling. I did do a birthday card recently that I'll be putting up on the blog shortly, but it's just your generic happy birthday stamp. But outside of that, I just wanted to share some of the tricks with you. Quickly, just a quick disclaimer, I'm not affiliated with any of the brands I'm going to talk about today. It's just, and I also don't consider myself an expert either. I just want to emphasize that no matter what your skill level is, you can do this. And with stamping, especially with stamping technique, a lot of it is practice. I'll be touching on that shortly and I can show you, but there's ways to help too. So the layout I'm particularly referring to is this one. This is my last week of February layout, and I wanted to share this with you because I ran into a lot of issues stamping. I stamped the date as well as the days, the maybe tomorrow to-do list, the quote, the captured, and then the journaling words are all stamped. So on Instagram and on my blog, I've posted a before and an after picture. So I actually had to go in and make a lot of corrections to the layout. Turns out my ink pad was running out of ink, but I'll touch on that shortly. So I wanted to share with you that even if you're struggling, even if it's not quite how you want it to look, you can kind of fix it so that you get what you want. There are a lot of mistakes and a lot of imperfections on this layout, but all the imperfections together make it look like it's supposed to be that way. So that kind of worked out. I'm happy about that. So with my experience stamping in my planner, I wanted to share a few tricks and tips on how to make it work best for you. Again, I'm out of practice when it comes to stamping, so I'd like to think I'm starting not maybe at ground zero, but close enough. So please bear with me while I share this with you. So let me just quickly touch on stamp pads for a second. You get a variety of stamp pads. These are just a couple that I have. You know I love my distress inks. I have those too. This one is new. I just got it recently and it's amazing. Like, it's as advertised, VersaFine. I haven't played with it enough to talk about it, but I just wanted to show you the different kinds you get. This one's excellent too, stays on. It literally stays on anything. It's a solvent ink, and I use this when I use my alcohol-based markers, but that'll be a different post. So for today, I'm just mostly gonna focus on the Brilliance ink. This is what I use in my planner. There's minimal bleeding, no bleeding, and minimal ghosting. So really great brand. So firstly, what I want to talk about is block size. So you get all these acrylic blocks for stamps, and it feels like there's 1,000,001 different acrylic blocks, and there are, because there are 1,000,001 different size stamps. I recently got this one actually. This is one that triggered me to make the video and share with you, but this is my basic collection. I also actually have a smaller one that I got in a stamp set. These were bought together as a set. This was bought separately, and this I got, like I said, through a different set. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's just nice to have to stick it on. So why it's important? So the different sizes are important based on the size of your stamp, because it helps you apply even pressure. So let me grab a couple here. Let me find all the ones. So this one, for example, won't fit on this, and if you were to do it separately, you were going to miss out on even pressure. So therefore you want to get something bigger like this, where it fits on there. So the other one I want to talk about are these. Different ones will fit differently, and you want to make sure you get the most coverage just to help you. I mean, I'll be stamping examples for you to see what I'm talking about, but the more surface area, the better the ratio of the surface area to your stamp, the better your stamp's going to look. I've rarely used these, but I'll show you. Like, I have a couple of examples where I can show you there as well. And I'll show you. It's easy to show you. While I get this all set up, I also wanted to comment that I will be posting this on my blog in written form, so you don't have to go through and hear me ramble again. If you choose not to, you can also get this information on my blog. So this stamp I got off of Wish. It's nothing fancy. I'll touch on stamp quality later, but let's just use this. The paper I'm using is mixed media paper. Okay, put that there, put that there. So the ink pads come with these covers. They say do not discard, protective in a cover. It does. It'll protect it from drying out. It'll protect it from touching the lid. So the best way to, I'm touching on this in my second point, but for inking, you have a number of options. You can just dab it down like this onto the ink pad. However, you're not going to get as even ink coverage as pushing it against the stamp like this. So that's how I like to do it. You almost control how much ink goes down, versus if you stamp it when it's on the table and you just go down on the pad like that, you're more likely to get ink in places you don't want. Okay, so pressure is very important to get even pressure. Just got this stamp recently, so see, so there's a lot of pressure lacking. So the bigger the stamp, the more time you're going to have to spend making sure you're putting a lot of, well, enough ink for one, and then enough pressure. So that's a perfect example of a mess, but I just wanted to show you the bigger ink pads, stamp pads. The other thing I'm going to talk about briefly is the stamp scrubber cleaning pad. What you do is you can just add stamp cleaner onto the surface, and then you're going to just, very simple, very easy, just brush it back and forth. Very easy, very simple, back and forth brushing, and you're gonna get it pretty clean. I mean, the ink's you're never gonna get your stamp super clean again, like the ink will stain it. So you just wanna make sure you get majority of the ink off, and then you can just let it dry for a couple of minutes before putting it away. Okay, so now let me show you the difference between the blocks. I'm just gonna grab this one again in a second. Okay, so let me show you. We'll grab this one I've used before. This set, it's available at Michael's. I got this off of Wish as well, and I will admit, it's really good quality actually. It's better than I expected it would be. Okay, so I put this tiny little stamp on this giant block, and we're gonna see what happens here. Okay. Again, I'm holding it up to ink it. Let's make sure we get enough ink on there. Okay. And okay, so again, I'm just gonna push just to make sure I get that evenly stamped. I don't know if you see how much the block is wobbling. That's not good, and we'll get into that some more. So that's the image with the big block. Okay, now I'm going to do the image with this block, which is the next size up, that I have at least. Okay. Okay, 1 second. So there's a lot less rocking, which is good. And I don't know if you can see the slight differences there, but I'm going to keep going and then we'll talk about the differences shortly. Okay, so here's this block, the small block. Let's put it more in the center. Ink. So note the minimal rocking going on because the block, there's not as much space and time to rock. Okay. Okay, so those are the 3 different stamped images. I'm holding it. Let me move it down there. So the top image, you can see that the outer lines are a bit thicker than say the middle image, than say the bottom image. I don't know if you can see the fine white line that appears on the edge of his face. It's non-existent in that one. So that's why it's so important to use the right size acrylic block, because you're going to get a better quality image out of it. So that's why you have 1,000,001 different blocks. It makes a difference in the end. I guess I'm going to use more of that, but that's why that's important. So that's the block. So that's why there are 1,000,000 different kinds of acrylic blocks. I like this one for the little stamp icons that you get. So for example, the butterflies, the brave will fit on there as well, the just start. Like, it's nice to have the smaller block because then you can still at least get the even pressure. I also like to use this for letters too. Like, this is great for letters. It's easier to space them out and make sure that your lettering's even. Like I said, these guys I'll use for borders. Mostly borders. I mean, I can't really think of anything. Or if you have different sentence, I guess, with different words. I don't, so I'm not sure. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about stamping technique. Now, stamping technique is where that's what's going to take practice. That's what's going to take a long time. Like, you just have to keep plugging away at it and keep practicing. So, my number one mistake is not getting enough ink on the image. It really frustrates me, and I work really hard at it, and I always keep it in mind. With that said, with that last planner layout I did, it turns out the stamp pad was running dry. So I ordered some of the stamp refills that you can get. These are from Simon Says Stamp. So the stamp pad I originally got from Michael's. I believe Joann's has them too. I don't shop at Hobby Lobby, so I'm not sure if they have it or not, but I haven't found stamp pad refills at any of those stores, so I ordered this online from Simon Says Stamp, and it works great. As you can see now, it's good to go. The other thing to take into consideration is not to push too hard. If you push too hard, you're gonna get thick, ugly lines associated with your image. So I'm actually gonna use a different stamp. Let's use a different stamp. Yeah, I'll use this one. This one's perfect. I'm gonna use this Live Out Loud stamp from the Acrylic Stamp on the Go collection. This is from Simon Says Stamp as well, in case anybody wants to know. But okay, so this is a little bit stuck on here, so let's talk about that for a minute. When you're peeling your stamps off of this plastic, you want to be very, very, very careful. In the past, when I first started stamping, I stretched out the image and it absolutely destroyed it. So when lifting these stamps off of this plastic, just be very, very careful. Like, slow is your friend, because if you mess up, it's really upsetting. Okay, so that guy's gonna fit just on there. So push. Okay, so here's the image without pushing too hard, without rocking back and forth. Okay, let's get the edges. This block might be a little bit too small. Okay. Oops. So now I'm going to push harder. Okay. So, I don't know if you can see, but the lines look fat. This is actually a very good quality stamp, so it's working out quite well actually, but the poorer the quality, I'll get into the stamp quality in a minute, but the lines are kind of thick, so let's get more going over here. Now I just won't push as hard. I'll just add gentle, even pressure. So although it's not quite as dark, the lines are thinner, the lines are better. Other than there, you can tell where I put more pressure. So the next thing, the other thing you don't want to do is rock back and forth. Rocking back and forth is going to give you uneven pressure as well. So this is a perfect example. What's happening here is it's thicker in certain areas and not as thick in others. So those are the two no-nos. You want to be careful not to push too hard, and you want to be careful not to rock it back and forth. Now, as you can see, there's a very fine line between what's too hard and what's not hard and what's not hard enough, and I really struggle with the not hard enough. So with that said, I have a cheater way of fixing my images that I don't push hard enough. Like, honestly, I would rather not push hard enough than push too hard. So like I said, what happened in my layout was I didn't have enough ink on the image to begin with, and then I didn't push hard enough. There you go, that's a little bit better. So when it comes to when it comes to fixing images like that, what you're going to do is, or what you're going to want to do is, my favorite tools. I have my Tombow mono drawing pens in 3 sizes. They come in 3 sizes. I think I got mine off of Amazon, but now they're only available on JetPen, so you can check them out on jetpens.com. And then my trusty handy dandy white gel pen. So this is my best friend. Reason being, bullet journals, both the scribbles and the lectern, they're an off-white color. So when you use whiteout, it stands out like a sore thumb. But when you use the gel pen, the white pen, it camouflages a little bit better. So let me show you. I actually did some stamping earlier. Just pull it out. Let me see. Where did I stamp it? Here we go. Here I didn't do it dark enough at the bottom, and I just colored it in with a pen. Here is a before and an after. Now the after is still not great, but it's better than the before. The other thing you can do is you can use an eraser. Now you can't use an eraser over the stamped image, but you can use the eraser to just capture around it. And the sooner you do that, the sooner the ink's gonna come off. So, but if you say do this, oh, this is dry now, but this is also going to take away the ink out of your picture so that it's not gonna be as vivid anymore. So let me show you what I mean. So I think it should be dry now, but I'm taking my size 3 and I'm just gently going over it. So just gently going over the words. So there's an example. So again, it's not ideal, but it at least give a different effect than I didn't stamp hard enough. And that's, I spent probably a good half hour just going over and cleaning up the images from my spread. The next most important thing I want to emphasize with every fiber of my being is wait for the image to dry. I am the worst. I am the worst for waiting for it to dry. As you can see, just going over the word, I ended up smudging this. So it does take quite a while for it to dry. If you're impatient like I am, you can use a hairdryer, or you can use an embossing gun or or any other heat setting tool just to dry it out. Just FYI, if you're using an embossing gun, just be careful. Don't get too close to the paper. It will burn. I've definitely done that before too. So you just want to be very careful with letting it dry. Let me show you what happens if you go over the stamped image when it's not dry yet. Like, as you can see, it's losing its ink. It's smudged everywhere. It's also a cool effect, so if that's what you're going for in your stamped image or whatever your layout is or your idea is, like, it could be cool. I know there's probably a lot of perfectionist stampers out there that are a little bit dying with me happily erasing over everything, but that's how it goes. So the last thing I wanted to touch upon is stamp quality. The better your stamps, the less issues you're going to have. So this stamp set, for example, the Live Out Loud, it's actually very forgiving. Like it was very forgiving. And the cheaper the stamp, the less forgiving it'll be. I don't really have an example of any really, really cheap stamps, or maybe I do. Hold on, let me see. Like the Recollection stamps, they're not great. These I got on clearance at Michael's for a couple bucks. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm just cleaning this out here. Let's see. What do we care about? Let's pick the wine glass because that's life. Sometimes. Okay. So I'm using the Brilliance ink pad again, obviously. So let's just do this. Ink, 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 ink. So you see, I wasn't even pushing that hard. I can push harder and look what it's going to do. I can just tap it. So that's not bad. So that's a poor ink stamp quality. So you could see how hard I had to try to mess that step up, and you can see how easy it was to mess these up. So stamp quality is a huge thing. Like I said, these are Recollections brand from Michael's. They were on the clearance section for obviously good reason. They're still fun, and I still use them like every once in a while, but they're not the greatest. My favorite go-to stamp stores is Studio Calico. A lot of my planner stamps are Studio Calico. I recently discovered Studio L2E. They're based out of Oregon, and they're fantastic too. Simon Says Stamps. Simon Says Stamps is where I got this Kelly one from. I got this other Kelly one from there. They have more than just the Kelly brand. It's actually extremely overwhelming to look online at that store, but it's also where I got my inkers, my re-inkers. And then I've been using the Ali Edwards brand as well. She's the memory keeper, and the quality is just unbelievable, like unbeatable for any of those brands or stores I just mentioned. I also wanted to say Ali Edwards, Studio Calico, Studio L2E, and Simon Says Stamps have incredible shipping times. Like I can't get over how quickly some of these products get to me. So I also recommend them for that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions of other tips and tricks I should try, please let me know in the comments below. I'll also be posting a written version of this video on my blog for reference. Just to emphasize, this is just basic stamping techniques and suggestions and tips and tricks, so nothing too experienced, or I don't claim to be an expert at all. I mean, you saw my work. So yes, if you like my videos, please subscribe. If you like what I have to say on my blog, you can sign up for email subscription as well. Otherwise, you can also follow me on Instagram to see what I'm up to as well. So thank you very much for your time today. Goodbye.